here. Tonight, I want to talk about some really cool shit. So, I've been thinking an awful lot about how companies can control what we think and what we do. And it occurred to me that the major tech companies that are out there right now. Oh crap, I forgot to update the title. Hold on. Shoot. Hold on, everybody, while I update the, while I update the stuff. Oh my gosh. I tried to be so prepared. Okay, there we go. That should be good. Okay. Update information. Information updated. Oh well. Can't be perfect all the time. Can't win everything every day. Oh well. So, what I was thinking about is there are several companies out there, and these companies have figured out how to control our lives. And their main method of control is by manipulating our interactions with social media. And these companies are, Google, Facebook, Twitter, the usual suspects. The problem with the amount of power that they've been able to accumulate is they can affect so many people all at the same time, and it's almost as though those people are not in control of their subconscious. Hey, what's up, Mike? Welcome to the show, buddy. We had a rough start this time, but we're here. We're going. We got it. I decided not to use the old... I want to figure out a way to keep the chat in there, but I hate how that overlay has a bunch of stuff for, like, tipping and subs and stuff. Like, I'm nowhere near popular enough to have the ability to get subscribers on Twitch. The requirements, I think you gotta have 100 followers or something before you can have subscribers. I don't remember. I just know it'll be a while before any of that stuff matters. What's got you exhausted, buddy? What's wrong? What happened today? So, it just occurred to me that it's kind of pointless to have all that stuff there. So I'm going to work on the layout here and figure out how to keep the chat in there, but get rid of all that other stuff, because all that other stuff is just sort of superfluous at this point. I mean, I'm sure someday, maybe, if things keep going well, that we'll have subscribers and people will tip in the chat or whatever. But right now, you can't do that. So there's no reason to have that info there, or like a bunch of stuff taking up the screen where... Why haven't you been sleeping? I don't sleep very good either. I have to take sleeping pills every single goddamn night to go to sleep. So yeah. Oh, and we got 2 copyright strikes on previous videos, because like music playlists that were supposed to be Creative Commons or like royalty free weren't, or at least they were like 90% not copyrighted, but there was 2 songs from, and I think I played the same playlist in both of those episodes. So, you know. I got my OBS all set up to where I can see what the fuck is going on without looking away now. Anxiety about moving. You know, anxiety is one of the worst things that I think humans deal with. A weird tick in our subconscious, which is one of the things that companies use to manipulate us, is our anxiety, our fear. Okay, so back to the point. Basically, here's my contention. My accusation. No, that's not the good word. That's a terrible word. Basically, what I think is happening in the world is companies like Google, Facebook, and Twitter, which I think are the major guilty parties for doing this. They've created a system of dopamine triggers and feedback loops and algorithms that feed us contention, because contention gives us engagement, and engagement turns into dollars. It's very, very easy to monetize the shit that pisses you off, right? Because the math that they have to do to figure out what those things are isn't as hard for them, right? So a lot of Facebook is this circular argument where you're constantly fed posts from people who you disagree with, or about topics that you have previously argued about and posted a lot of comments. So on these topics, they figured out that they can get you to come back to these posts. They know that you're gonna keep coming back to those posts, and you're gonna keep interacting with them, and you're going to keep arguing with these people, and they have your attention, right? That's why for everyone out there who does social media stuff or creates content, that's why engagement is so important. Yeah, Facebook, I don't really fuck with Facebook. I do Twitter, and I do it recreationally, but mostly just to promote my shit. I think it's healthy. It's healthy to have a relationship with social media, but it's not healthy to actualize your self-worth through those feedback loops, through the likes and the comments and all that stuff, right? And I realize that's counterproductive for someone to say when they're on a Twitch channel, trying to get people to watch them. But I'm not doing that to manipulate you. I'm doing that because I want to entertain you, and I want to talk about stuff that I think is interesting, and I am entertained by listening to. You got to realize that I spend 90% of my free time on YouTube. And for example, tonight before the show, I watched about 3 hours worth of interview footage of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. About an hour and a half each. And they're really good friends, and they're two of the most wealthy, powerful people in the world. But the main reason that I watch it is because I want to pick up from these people. I want to learn what they did and the habits that they have that allowed them to be successful. Because you can learn what a person does, the correct choices that they've made. In the example of hey Ivan, welcome to the show. Come on in, buddy. I'm glad you're here. Very glad you're here. Y'all motherfuckers are the real ones, as Drake would say. So you can study these people. You can study Warren Buffett. You can study Bill Gates. And you can learn from the correct decisions that they made strategically. But that doesn't give you the information that you need to put yourself in the positions that they found themselves in, which allowed them to have access to those decisions anyway, right? And the interesting thing and how it relates to consciousness is Warren Buffett has never owned a computer. He doesn't use computers. In his office, he does not have a computer, he does not have a calculator or a stock ticker. He reads everything on paper. And he's not too concerned with the day-to-day changes or fluctuations in the market. That kind of shit isn't the type of investment that he does, right? So he has never had anyone access his subconscious the way that we have, the way that people who are plugged into stuff like Twitter and Facebook and shit like that. We have given corporations access to our subconscious thoughts, to our habits and our patterns and our likes and our dislikes, and we've given them the power to monetize that and honestly weaponize that to control how we think and what we do. And I use the phrase co-creative consciousness because our reality that we perceive is co-creative. We all make it together. We agree on certain things, right? We agree that certain things are objectively real, and we operate on that principle. So once you give a corporation root level access to that co-creative reality or consciousness, then actually what you're giving them is control over how it gets shaped, right? That's what that means. You have to think in terms of building blocks. Like when people are doing things or companies are doing things, they're not random. They're not deterministic in the sense that we think of it as a person, as an individual person. I think the most common way to perceive reality is a deterministic universe where there's cause and effect. But that's not exactly true if you're able to think far enough ahead to understand the relationship between cause and effect and manipulate those outcomes. And that's what companies like Facebook and Twitter have been able to do. And YouTube is able to do. And by proxy, Google, especially with search. Because we trust Google to give us accurate information. As a culture, we all pretty much trust Google. So, through manipulating search results and controlling what we perceive to be the truth, because, raise your hand if you regularly scroll past the second page of search results. I'm not raising my hand. I hope you guys aren't either, because, it's just not that common. It's been a long time since I actually went through, sorted search results on Google, because they've become very fucking accurate, right? And there was a window of time where that accuracy was transparent and it didn't have an agenda, and that's not the truth anymore. I'm not here to pinpoint that point in history. I'm not here to, I don't know exactly when that was, but there came a time when their return of search results to us had an agenda, and it was being shaped. Not exactly, definitely shaped, right? So, Facebook comes along and becomes a phenomenon. Prior to Facebook, we had MySpace, but MySpace didn't really weaponize this idea. I think that's why they failed, honestly. And maybe it was short-sighted of them. Maybe they didn't know. Maybe they didn't see it. That's entirely possible. But matter-of-factly speaking, that's why they went away and Facebook won. I think that MySpace had a far more altruistic premise from the beginning. And when Facebook came along, it did not have that altruistic premise, and therefore it was a more effective predator, and it won. Which kind of references back to Warren Buffett and why it's important to understand Warren Buffett. He doesn't use technology. So that means that he is not a cyborg. He is not fueled by search results from Google, and no entity has control over the information he has access to. And if you combine that with the fact that he is highly intelligent, has an excellent recall, and is very good at intuitively understanding complex mathematics, what you end up with in Warren Buffett is an apex predator. And you have to consider that we live in a world where money equals eating. So in nature, we look out and we see apex predators being the species that most efficiently eats its prey and does not have any predators itself, right? So financially speaking, Warren Buffett is an apex predator. I don't think that there is anyone alive who could beat him at his game. So then you think about people younger than him who have always had access to computers and leverage technology very heavily. And we've talked about Elon Musk a lot, so we won't talk that much about Elon Musk today. Let's talk about Bill Gates, Warren Buffett's best friend. So Bill Gates has understood how to leverage technology to amplify his intelligence, his recall, and his ability to reach people. And he understood intuitively early on how to make money doing that. Right? That's why Microsoft beat IBM. Early in the life of Microsoft, they shit all over IBM and made a lot of fucking money because IBM fucked up in a meeting with Microsoft, and Microsoft won. IBM made the decision that Microsoft hoped they would make, which is, we'll just license the software. Right? They didn't see the inherent value in creating a software platform. They only saw inherent value in the hardware because they had an outmoded way of thinking on a value-added business model. So a value-added business model is when the value of your company is based on the tangible value of the goods that it produces, and therefore it's a more durable long-term investment. And it's difficult for people who built companies like that to understand the value of a product that can be copied infinitely. It's like it's really hard for them to grasp, right? So those IBM guys, oh weird, the music has like a weird ping pong sound in it. It's freaking me out. So those IBM guys showed up to that meeting with Microsoft and really fucking screwed the pooch when they were like, we don't want to own your software company, because they had the opportunity to buy Microsoft and they passed it. They didn't do it, and they decided instead to license the software and therefore became financial slaves to Microsoft. You know, IBM still does quite well, but if you look at the position that IBM had at the time and the position that they have now, you'll know that they fucked up, right? It's like actors say all the time, oh man, they offered me the role of Spider-Man, I really fucked up when I didn't take it, right? So MySpace comes along and they're in a position where they have figured out how to get people's attention. But it's still really early in the history of people making money off of attention, right? So they didn't quite understand how to fucking do that. And Mark Zuckerberg, he came along and he was like, hey, check me out. I think I understand how this works. And went about the business of doing it. And then everyone jumped ship, went from MySpace to Facebook, and Facebook took over everyone's data. They control the data, they control the access, they control the attention, they control the co-creative consciousness of reality. So you go on Facebook, and see, this is negative. This is negative in a metric of happiness, right? Because you've been trained to go on these social media sites and figure out like how you feel about yourself based on the feedback loop, right? So you post a picture and like it gets like 30 likes and you do really well and it feels really good. So you keep doing that, right? So you keep posting pictures like the last one you posted. Which means you find yourself going to places and spending time at places based on a consensus from your peer group. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? You're doing what you're doing because you've been sold. You've been sold on the idea that the validation you get from social media is what should motivate your choices. So, where you go on vacation? Well, I mean, you got to go somewhere that'll get you good Instagram pics, right? Right? Who are you dating? Who are you in relationships with? Well, I mean, you got to date somebody good looking, right? Because you want, when you take those selfies, I mean, it's important that you get those likes. You're gonna get those likes if your wife or your partner, or your boyfriend or whoever, is the best looking person that you have access to, right? So then you start to like really quantify really shallow shit. Like, you start to use these metrics to build your personality that are really fucking shallow. And what happens is we end up in a world where everyone is building their character, their personality, from a very young age with only these shallow concepts at heart. And how far does that go, right? How far does it go? Well, it goes pretty fucking deep with very little input. It's a really fucking ingenious way to monetize humans en masse, right? Because here's what you end up with. We are in a plutocracy. The reality of the world is that it's a plutocracy, which is a system controlled by corporate interests, right? So, oh, that's an F-18, ladies and gentlemen. They're flying a lot more often lately. I'm not saying that they're, I just noticed that this year they fly a lot more than they did last year. Oh, man. Joints won't stay lit. So, we live in a world that's controlled by corporations, and corporations want you to buy shit. So, we have the largest influencers for our consciousness, for how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive others, is extraordinarily shallow. So we're pushed instinctively, emotionally, to buy things and go places that are very expensive. For example, there are places in the world that are objectively more beautiful and more pleasurable to be in, and those places tend to be the most expensive places to live. For example, I live in Portland, Oregon. In Portland, Oregon, weed is legal. We have beautiful mountains, fucking trees everywhere, great recycling programs, great arts programs. We actually have a special arts tax so that our schools still have shit like that. Like, my son is in the choir, and I've paid $0 for it. Well, it's summertime now. He's not in the choir right now, but this past year at school, he was in the choir, and I didn't even know he was in the choir until he had a fucking concert, because he never told me. And he was like, "I have a concert for choir," and I was like, "What? What the fuck are you talking about? I never gave you a check for choir." He was like, "Oh, I don't know. I just joined, man. What the occur to me to tell you. The reason it didn't occur to him to tell me is because it didn't cost any money and he didn't need any approval. So that's great, right? But Portland is one of the most expensive cities in America to live, and it's becoming more and more congested, and we have a larger and larger problem with crime. Hey, what's up? What's up, everybody? Poncho. Poncho. Yo. I don't know who that is, but hello. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. It's fucking fantastic. It makes me very happy that you're here. So the reason why Portland is so expensive to live in is because everyone wants to live here. Well, not everyone, but like a lot of people want to live here. People who like to go snowboarding want to live here because it's like an hour to the top of a mountain from my house. So, anyway, the reason why people want to live in places where everyone else wants to live, and the reason why the most congested areas. Oh, I'm not going to ban you. I don't ban anybody. I firmly believe in everyone's right to free speech. You can say whatever you want, Poncho, as long as it doesn't violate the terms and conditions of Twitch, which I haven't read. So, just don't say any fucked up shit. You know what I mean? Within reason. Within reason, brother. But we're all friends here. Everyone is welcome all the time. And if you have any questions or you have any input, please type it in the chat. I'm very interested. It's actually why I'm constantly looking over at the monitor. Don't smoke because it's not, I know it's not good for my health. It's actually part of the plan. It turns out that I'm very suicidal, but every time I try to fucking hang myself, somebody stops me. So I started smoking because I can just kill myself a tiny bit at a time, and nobody stops me. It's my evil plan. So anyway, so everyone wants to live in certain places, you know, Hawaii, the fucking Bahamas, Portland, California, I don't know, fucking all kinds of places all over the world. The south of France is goddamn amazing. And one of the reasons why people are willing to work themselves to death and sacrifice and save and not live in more affordable areas that would be more convenient for their lives is because they have this feedback loop from social media where they see all these pictures of good-looking people in good-looking places with good-looking stuff, right? So companies like Apple are very, very successful, and they've been able to cash in on this by being the preferred product, right, of people who can afford to get whatever they want. Don't buy more cigarettes. Okay. Well, you know, I'm going to, but I appreciate your concern. It means a lot to me. Thank you. So anyway, good-looking people buying good-looking shit in good-looking places on social media. Those fucking things and those fucking people get 1 million likes and 1 million retweets and 1 million shares, and everybody loves those people. They're everyone's favorite people in the world, right? And celebrities are disproportionately good-looking, right? For that reason. And, you know, there's a lot more good-looking people in the world than I think people realize, but, you know, there's a disproportionate amount of them in music and movies and TV shows. And it's because these programs are called programs because they're programming you to want to live the life that they're living. They want to make that life look as attractive as possible. Like, you know, I'm kind of older, so I'm older, so I remember I remember the show Friends. That's what I was thinking about. The show Friends. Now, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I used to watch that show, and they had this fucking huge apartment with like really cool, quirky furniture, and everyone was good looking, and they just kind of went to the coffee house and hung out, and nobody ever really mentioned money. Nobody ever talked about it. Like, you know, there's well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're not understanding, but I'm still glad you're here. So all these people on the show Friends, and it was one of the most popular shows on TV. I didn't actually watch it when it was on, but I remember seeing it. And everyone was good looking, no one ever talked about money, and everyone had the coolest shit, right? The nicest furniture, and they wore cool clothes, and like one guy's job was I don't know, an anthropologist or something. He worked at a fucking museum. I don't know, but it was like cool shit. And then like shows like How I Met Your Mother. You know, one dude was a lawyer, and Ted was an architect, and Barney did whatever the fuck. So there was kind of an explanation as to where the money was coming from, but nobody really ever talked about it in the sense of they all just did what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it, and they could do that because they were financially reasonably independent. So I think the reality of most people's lives isn't quite like that, and I think a lot of people are depressed because of that. And I think one of the reasons our reaction to that situation is depression is because media, social and otherwise, tells us that that's not normal. And one of our biggest desires as humans is to be normal, or be extraordinary in a positive way, right? We're extraordinarily driven to try to be like everyone else or better than everyone else, but never substandard. And all of these things in our lives remind us fucking constantly that we're not good enough. And that sucks, right? So we live in a world where I think it all fits together, right? I think it's all a part of this big picture, this macro vision that's causing the collective consciousness of humans to be sad and angry. And that's manifesting itself in some really negative ways. It's harming a lot of people all over the world, right? We see widespread war, widespread poverty, inequality across the board, right? Today there was basically a riot in downtown Portland between Antifa and other people of various creeds and whatever that disagree. It's common in Portland. You can look it up. We're one of the most regular protester cities, I think. Like kind of like a lot of the big cities on the West Coast are, though. So we have these feedback loops, negative and positive, that are keeping us engaged with people that make us angry on social media, keep us sad because we don't have the people we admire's shit. We work ourselves to death so that we can have technology that we don't really need. I mean, there was a time that it made sense to work extra hard so you could have the newest shit, but we've kind of reached a point where it doesn't really matter. If you have like $100, $200 fucking cell phone, it does the same shit basically as a really cool iPhone. You know, obviously one is better than the other, and you can tell the difference, but they basically do the same thing. There's not a huge gap in the technological experience of the lower middle class, upper lower class, and upper middle class, and even upper class. Like, cell phones are only so good, and the difference between a $200 one and a $1,000 one just isn't fucking huge anymore. So it's cool. You don't really need that much money to chase that, which is cool, I guess. Um, and I'm not suggesting that we should all walk away from social media. I mean, I still have a Facebook. I just don't really fuck with it that much. Um, I check Twitter every day. Um, Obviously, I do Twitch and I do YouTube. Um, so I'm not saying that we should quit. I'm just saying that we should be aware of what's happening. We should consider it when we make our purchasing decisions, when we interact with each other on the internet, when we meet each other in real life or hang out with our friends. Like, we should recognize that we're being manipulated all the time, every day, since forever. And I don't think enough people think about that. Why is my nose so fucking itchy? It's driving me crazy. I think we see, it's really easy to fool a person, but it's really hard to convince them that they've been fooled. And that's true. That's like universally true. I didn't make that up. That's not like new shit. I'm not like dropping jewels on you here. That's some regurgitated shit that I heard other people say, and I don't remember the origin of the term, or not the term, but the phrase. But what's important is you are really easy to trick into doing something, and very, very hard to convince that you've been tricked. Which means that companies who have monetized your personality have control over your life. They control how you vote, who you fuck, what you buy, and where you go, and where you live, unless you're misfortunate enough to not live in one of the places where technology has become pervasive. Obviously, there's a lot of places in the world where nobody has computers and nobody fucking knows what Facebook is. They've never heard of it. Well, they've probably heard of it, but they've never looked at it. There's places in the fucking world where a rich warlord, is ballin' and has like satellite internet, and everyone else in the country lives on like $6 a fucking month or something. That's just the reality of most of the world. If you are in a place right now where you're sitting in a chair or on a bed, or you're comfortable, you're fed, you're not thirsty, and you're watching this show on a screen, we're all extraordinarily fortunate. We're lucky as shit to have been born in places and in situations where doing this is fucking possible. And we should remember that every day. We should always remember how lucky we are statistically to live in places with ready access to money, food, water, healthcare, and entertainment. These are all luxuries in the world. And we also don't think about that enough. But our feedback loops on social media either consistently remind us of that fact or hide it from us. But whichever it is, it shapes our worldview. It shapes what we consider real. Everything you know and believe could very easily be a lie. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying it easily could be. I mean, think about situations in your life where you had a partner that cheated. I'm sure there was a point prior to that where you were certain that that eventuality could not occur. It wasn't possible. Because, love and trust and stuff. But the reality is that, sometimes people make mistakes, and sometimes people lie to you, and they never get caught. You've been lied to at least a handful of times in your life if you're watching this show, depending on your age. At least a handful of times, and you never knew that you were lied to. That's a reality, right? So what we have to do is try to just be aware. Be aware of what's going on and be mindful. Just practice mindfulness, right? I'm not trying to tell everybody that like there's a giant conspiracy against them. I'm just saying that that's the world we live in. It's not nefarious specifically. The building of wealth and influence is not inherently evil. I think it's more you should consider it indifferent to good and evil, right? Because so much in the world has improved and gotten better because of this, right? For example, Bill Gates has, committed to leveling the playing field as far as the average infant survival rate globally. Which is actually a really tricky way to guarantee that we at least all start out with an equal shot at a long life. Right? If 90+% of us survive infancy, then we're all probably going to live, an average lifespan, whatever that is. So if we raise the bar and say everyone in the world can live an average lifespan, then we have at least created a amount of time everyone has to achieve whatever it is that they're going to achieve and have that be a reasonably equitable playing field. Because remember, folks, we want equality. We want equality for everyone, but we also want to understand the difference between equality of opportunity and equality of outcome. They're not the same thing. Equality of opportunity says, hey, everyone has a chance to play ball. Some of you are going to be better at it, right? But everyone gets to play. And equality of outcome not either. It always ends up in a handicap for those who are better, more skilled, more accurate, smarter, whatever it is, right? And life is, people, it's not a game, right? But it kind of plays like one. It's just this game where we're trying to figure out the fucking rules as we go. And I think we're overwhelmingly lost as a generation. In the sense that we have the most amazing tools and opportunities when compared to other people who were this age prior to us. But we've been kind of disillusioned and we're not all quite sure how to grab onto these tools and make life work. Everything's more expensive than it used to be, and jobs pay less, and education is more expensive, and housing and food and insurance and owning a car and all of this shit that you do is really fucking expensive now. My mom raised me on I don't think she ever made more than $14, $15 an hour. And now in a city like Portland, $15 an hour isn't even good money. I mean, the minimum wage here is fucking $12 an hour. It's about to be 12. It might be $12.50 now. It's going up to 15 eventually. But the point is 15 is minimum wage here in the next couple of years, right? It's nothing money. So when your purchasing power has been taken as sharply as it has been in the last 20 some odd years, then what's happened is we have an increased want, we have an increased need to buy things and be cool places and be good looking and wear cool clothes and say the right things and vote the right way and have the right beliefs. And we have a social media mechanism in place to give us all of that tutelage and teach us how to want the right shit and think the right shit and own the right shit. But we don't live in a world where even the most lucky of us have really gotten to a point where living that life is truly achievable. So we have an image of our objective reality being sent out to everyone around you and including you that's not true and being controlled by corporations. Because we are a collection of our thoughts and feelings. That's who we are. That's the reality that we perceive. That's the lens with which we view the world. It's mostly emotions. Really. Because humans interpret thought as feeling. With, obvious exceptions. But we imagine that we live in a world that we are told is fair, but it isn't. So we get mad and we get angry and we go on social media and we do like hashtag social justice stuff, and some of us actually suit up and go out into the streets like what happened today in Portland and fight it out for what we believe in. Because we're all being told what to believe in. It's just that there's a small platter of choices. Because free will is necessary for a functional society. That's why that's why the movie The Matrix was so popular, because it took so seriously the concept of free will. But we're not going to get into that. The point is, we live in a simulated reality that is being simulated on another layer before it goes into our subconscious and into our conscious mind, and then we are outputting a image that we perceive to be acceptable to everyone else based on what we're taking in, and that's reality, right? Because the shit in your room and like the shit, like the objects, they're not that important to your feeling of existential validation. And what I mean by that is your feeling of your right to exist, right? That's mostly derived from emotion. And those emotions are controlled from the exterior instead of the interior. And this disconnection with your existential self and your external reality is what's making everyone fucking sad and angry. So that's the crux of my point. Is not that it's a conspiracy in a nefarious way. It's not. It's actually, in the long term, a conspiracy to make everyone happy and comfortable and free. Because if our perceived reality were true, and the majority of us had the things we wanted and lived the places that we wanted and lived life to the fullest, the way that we want people on social media to believe that we do. If we actually did, and if everyone did, the world would be fucking awesome, right? Like, it's not a negative fucking thing that is necessarily being pushed to you. Because if it were, then our, kind of tied in with this, is our ambition as a species, as a society. And our ambition is for everyone to not have to worry about money and have the stuff that they want and live a cool life. So, I don't want people to walk away from this conversation and think that I'm trying to tell you that, the world is out of your control, because it's not. You still, of course, have free will, and you buy the stuff you want to buy, and you do the stuff you want to do, and you are the places that you want to be, or at least you are the places that you are. Right? Hold on, I gotta restart this thing. There we go. And you do have control. You do have a say. You could be an ambitious person and do anything that you want to do. You can really live the life that you want to live. If you're able to listen to this show, then you have access to the tools to be a successful person. And there are some people that have a way harder time than others, and that's a reality. And we have to just accept that and try to help each other and try to be kind and empathic with each other. I have a stand-up joke that's basically like, I'm a straight, white, college-educated guy, so, shit's going pretty well for me, right? And that's the joke. The joke is that, like, shit's going okay for me. Because even when shit is fucked up for me, I mean, by comparison, a child in the Sudan, and child soldiers, and just all the fucked up shit that's happening in the world, I'm incredibly lucky to be in the skin that I'm in. That's a just foundational block of who I am as a person is luck, right? I was born in skin that gives me an inherent advantage in life. That's fucking crazy, right? But that's the system that has been set up historically, and that's the system we live in, and we need to at least acknowledge it if we want to change it, right? I didn't ask for the privilege I was born with, but I'm lucky to have it, so I'm going to acknowledge it and be thankful for the dumb luck of being born a straight white guy. Right? That's all it is. It's just dumb fucking luck. But once you recognize your how lucky you are, no matter what it is, like everyone has some form, not everyone, but like a lot of us that don't realize it have huge amount of luck in our life that we don't recognize or we haven't recognized yet. So even if you're not a straight white guy, there's advantages to who you are individually. It's just that I started out very lucky. And I would like to use that luck to create equality of opportunity. And even if I can't do anything to create equality of opportunity, I want to keep talking about it, and I want to talk about the way that our consciousness and our reality and our emotions and everything is controlled by corporations that want to sell us stuff, and how that affects the way that we interact with each other. And I think it creates a competition for resources that isn't necessary. There's no actual objective reason that we should all compete for resources the way that we do. But we do. That's the reality. We do. So anyway, that's pretty much what I have to say about that. And you know what? Tonight's show is a little bit shorter than it normally is, but that's okay. We can't all, not all topics take that long to talk about. And, it seems like a complicated subject, but it's not really that complicated. It's been weighing on my mind recently, and I wanted to talk about it. So, anyway, for everyone out there, I'm glad you were here. I'm glad you showed up. I hope you had a great time. I would really, really appreciate it if you like the video, if you subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, if you follow if you're watching this on Twitch, um, comment on the videos, come watch the live show and comment in the chat and take part. Remember that the Next Gen Retro Chat Show Live is a conversation even if there's no guest. You, the viewer, have the opportunity to interact, and I want you to, and I hope you do. I love you all. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I hope that your anxiety becomes relieved in the case of Mike, who has anxiety about moving back to the States from Japan. I hope if you're depressed that you find bliss, even if for a moment. And I hope you find success in all of your endeavors. Thank you very much for watching. That's Next Gen Retro on YouTube, Next Gen Retro PDX on Twitch, Next Gen Retro 1, the number 1, on Twitter. And anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Bye-bye.